Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Do you mind just closing the door? Thank you. The month of Nisan, sponsored by David and Nancy Smith, on the birth of a granddaughter, daughter to Helene and Max Agnes of Springfield, and for the Yortzeit of David's father, Moshe ben Shaul Yitzchak, the Kram family, Leilui Nishmas, Shoshana Reisel bas David Dov, Yitzchak Rai ben Nachum, Reb Ezriel ben Yosef Tuvia, Necha bas Ephraim Zalman v'Rachel, and Mishpachat Sternberg for a healthy pregnancy, healthy mom, and healthy babies at the right time for Sarah Rivka Bas Chana Rus. And the week is sponsored by Rav Yitzchak and Shira Selter, loving memory of Shira's grandfather, of Yehuda Leib ben Harav Shalom. I also want to do the learning for the Refuah Shlema of Rachel Bas Bela. Okay? I think it's Rachel Bas Bela. Rachel Bas Bela. Also, our dear friend Seth Pearson's mother was just Niftaras. Leilui Nishmata, Elisheva Bat Sarah Imenu. Okay. So we're gonna end off. We're basically gonna. I'm almost certain that this is gonna be the last year that we're gonna have together, because I have no idea what's gonna be with next week, with all the preparations and whatnot, and so we'll make the most out of what we have right now. And this is a piece that I believe will help us again stay focused with a very clear kivun for every Pesach, and definitely this year's Pesach. There are more pages here for whoever needs. And I know that there are so many different hachanot for the Chag. There's so many different preparations for Yantiv on so many different levels. I try to remind the Chevra every year a teaching that I heard from Reb Chaim Kramer one time. Someone once came to Reb Chaim Kramer and said to him, if you really learn Hilchot Pesach, how do you, it's so the last thing you feel when you come to the Seder table is free. Or it's usually the opposite. And there's so many things you want, you have to know, you have to keep in mind, and forget about the kavanas and everything and the pnimius, just halachas, just all the halachas you have to remember, and what happens when, how much of what, at what point. It's very overwhelming. And Reb Chaim Kramer gave the deepest answer. He said, you try to do your best. That's a free person. They try to do their best. And it resonated so deeply. I heard this many years ago, and it resonated very deeply. You try to do your best. And we're going to try to do our best with a mitzvah that the night is more, and the whole Yantiv of Pesach is basically based on. I don't know, well, you probably never did. The truth is, I didn't either. I just heard illustrations of the following. When the big Rebbes would sit down to actually eat that first bite of matzah, do you know how long it may have lasted? Though it may have lasted sometimes for like half an hour, one bite. One bite, just. Rav Shlomo said he was by the Frierdiker Rebbe one year for Leil Seder. You believe that? And the way he described it, and the way he would speak about it, just with that first bite of the matzah, they'd sit, and it was a whole movie. It was a whole thing. Now, again, one of the things that we have to deal with is that sometimes this used to happen when I was younger. I'd hear these stories about how the tzaddikim would do certain things. In my mind, I felt like that's the avoda. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And in practicality, I made everyone feel uncomfortable. Everyone else at the Seder feel uncomfortable. Because I was like, no, this is how, what do you mean? If it's not going to be like this, then how should it be, right? So we're not going to try to imitate or, compare on any level, certain minhagim that we hear. We keep it in mind. It goes in somewhere. It's somewhere inside. It stays. We have to just trust it. It stays somewhere inside. But what I want to do is to really just, hopefully, that from the learning we do today, something pops out. It stays here and goes into here, and it leads us towards Pesach, and we don't forget it, most importantly, Seder night. And really, that is the whole concept of achilas matzah. Sometimes you have chaver, they come back from yeshiva after the first year, they come with rulers. You ever see chaver come with rulers to the Seder table? Oh, now that's in the Haggadah, yeah. Placemat rulers, but measuring, this and that. It's sweet. Listen, I'm sure it's holy. I'm sure, Bemet, I'm sure. What time?
Timing also. I remember as a kid.
Timing. Then I went to a very close friend of mine who's a very frum guy and a very big Breslover, and he was eating the afikomen like way after chatzos, like not even. I think they were in the middle of Magid at around chatzos, right? They sat down to eat. I said to him, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, Rabbi Nachman has a different perush on what the concept of chatzos, of zmanim. It's like everything in its right measurement." Tartei mashman, right? So we have the chaver, they have rulers, and the Seder, that's a very, obviously we have to make sure we eat enough matzah, we drink enough wine. You gotta, basic things about that. But you have to I also have to make sure that we understand what we're doing when we're eating matzah. Rav Shlomo said Matza Soap. It's Pashat soap, it's a cleanser. It's literally a cleanser. The eating of the matzah itself is a cleanser. And in a year like this year, when there's so many different legitimate reasons to be distracted from basic things, I feel like this Be'ez Hashem will give us a lot of help to remember certain key things that are just very simple, but very, very much chaval if we go through a Seder without doing this. So this is from Rav Kluger. He has he actually has 3 Sfarim, but 2 very, very big Sfarim on Pesach called B'nai Bechori Yisrael. This is mind-blowing. Every year I go into here, even the years we're not learning it, like in here, Rav Kluger has been for me just in terms of getting your game on towards what the yontivs are all about, what the pnimius of the yontivim are all about, but in a very simple, in a relatively simple way. That's what I'm saying. In a relatively simply way. Okay. So let's go inside. I don't know how much we're going to do with this, but even if we just get to the first 3 or 4 paragraphs, I feel like it'd be כדאי. אחת המצוות המרכזיות שאנו מקיימים בליל הסדר היא אכילת מצה. Now listen to this. וזוהי האכילה היחידה שהיא מצוות עשה מן התורה בזמננו. This is the only mitzvah aseh. There are more pages here. If ever need, there's plenty. This is the only achilah. This is the only eating that's a mitzvah aseh min Torah in our times. So, what does that make you question? like on a practical level, like in terms of other things that we know eating has to do with kedusha and mitzvahs. What do you think? Like, what is this the only mitzvah saying in the Torah that we have to regarding food? Yeah, and that's important. All the other times when we know Seder, Sudas Mitzvah, Sudat Shabbat, the concept of a Seudah, the concept in Chazal say, En Simcha Ele Basar V'Yain, so you enhance the Seudah by having meat and wine. Those are all enhancements towards a concept called the Seudah. But the actual food, is, the only mitzvah Sasem in Torah is the food of matzah, which is such a strange thing because matzah, I don't know, it's not exactly the thing that we look forward to all year long to eat because of its taste, necessarily. More because of the concept. But this is the only mitzvah Sasem in Torah in our time. Kasher en anu zochim la'akriv korbanot b'beit mikdashenu. Kayadua mechatam sofer. Chatam Sofer teaches us because we don't have the opportunity yet to bring korbanot in our Beis HaMikdash and eat from there. That would be the mitzvah, because we even say in the Haggadah, V'nochal sham min azvachim u'min apsachim. We say like, when the Beis HaMikdash, when there's a korban, the mitzvah was to eat from the actual korban. That was a mitzvah. But today, since we don't have that, the only thing we have that it's a level of a mitzvah semin Torah is to eat the matzah. Nimtza. Sheyesh b'mitzvah achilas matzah mishum chidush she'en b'chol shar mitzvah Torah. What is so unique? What is the chidush of eating the matzah that's different than all of the mitzvahs of the Torah? Shebe'od she'et kol ha'mitzvot anu mekayimim begufeinu mibachutz. All of the mitzvahs that we do with our bodies, it's external. For instance, what? Give me any example. Bidiyuk. What else? Tefillin. lighting Hanukkah candles. These are all we do with our body, but it's outside. הרי שהמצה נכנסת בתוכנו ונהפכת להיות חלק מאיתנו. This is very important. Food, Rabbi Nachman has a whole teaching on this regarding Eretz Yisrael. We learned it one time, that the Meraglim came back and they said that Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Ochelet Yoshveahi, remember? And he has 3 different teachings in Likutei Moharan explaining what it means that it's a land, that devours its inhabitants. Rabbi Nachman says, Teva hamazon shenitapech lanizon. In other words, in a deep sense, you are what you eat, or you become what you eat. Rabbi Nachman explains there that part of what we eat that doesn't then leave us becomes part of our blood, of our brain, of everything. So in that teaching, Rabbi Nachman says it's a privilege to get swallowed up by Eretz Yisrael. So then because Eretz Yisrael, you become part of Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael becomes part of you. He says, you want to go to sit by a tzaddik and be amongst the tzaddik. You don't just want to be amongst the tzaddik, because that would be from the outside. You want to be swallowed up by the tzaddik. You want to become part of Kilo, the essence of the tzaddik. So Rav Kluger is saying over here, the matzah goes inside of us and becomes part of us. Now that's true regarding all food, but not all food is a mitzvah saseh min Torah. So the mitzvah saseh min Torah, the food that's a mitzvah saseh min Torah, that becomes part of you must mean something very, 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 very strong. Umikocha zochim anu la'achila bikdusha gam b'meshech kol hashana. Now this is the point of this shir. What wouldn't any of us do to feel that we got our eating on b'kedusha? I think that's one thing, and I'm not just speaking about dieting or losing weight. I'm saying bichlal, the relationship to food, that my relationship to food throughout the whole year should be one that in its nature, it's a holy process. It's one of the greatest issues people have. Rav Kook said, one of the reasons, I forget if he said it about a specific bracha or just benching bichlal, he says that every time that we eat, you have to bench because you have to do a little bit of tshuva, because you know that it wasn't as high, the experience of eating wasn't as holy and as high as you had in mind before you took the first bite. So therefore, every single time you eat, right afterwards, you already, go to this place of, I know, Rabbas Machshavas B'Lev Ish, I had all these plans. This was going to be like a kohen sitting by a korban. It didn't end up being like that. So every time you eat, Rav Kook says, then you bench to bring out this notion of tshuva that it could have been better. So Rav Kluger is saying to us something crazy, something very important. What we just described, which I think was something that each of us want, that our relationship to food, because what's food? It becomes us, that which goes inside of us. That can you imagine if after every meal for the rest of the year, you felt actually energized and less tired and healthier and not a little bit? He says the night of Pesach, that actually is a gate that opens. Because he says over here, from the koach, mikocha, from the koach of the matzah, the mitzvahs aseh, being eaten up by us, consumed by us, we merit zochim anu la'achila b'kedusha gam b'meshech kol hashana. The kedusha of eating matzah at night, from if it's really on, if we're really there with the consciousness of what matzah is, and that with the remembering right now, it's like a very important thing. I don't know, in your Haggadahs, if you have the Hareini, Muchan Mezuman, usually it's some people have it just before like the 4 cups. But really, especially in this year that we spoke about, this awareness, inviting yourself into a mitzvah, and then doing the mitzvah with a higher degree of awareness and consciousness is a different mitzvah, and the effects last much longer. So I'm sure today there are plenty of Haggadahs that you could get where there's a Hareini Muchan, which is basically saying, like literally saying this, right now I'm about to do the mitzvah saseh of eating matzah, but then add in your own words and saying, right now I'm about to put something inside of me that's going to become part of me that God commanded me to do. And I want to do it on the level of, and we'll explain on this in a little bit, that this type of eating has an effect on the way the rest of my year's eating is going to be. It'll be an amazing thing for this year's Seder. No, not to pressure you anymore. I'm saying this is like one I actually would pressure you, because I actually think that this is a game changer. Bekoach hamechla de mehemenusa she'achalnu shivat yamim. In the koach of this food, of this bread of mehemenusa. Mehemenusa is emunah. Matzah is called lechem ha'emunah, the bread of faith. In the koach of the bread of faith that we're eating for 7 days. The real inyan, the real mitzvah to say min Torah is like mamash regarding the matzah not to be taken lightly at all. You know, by Sukkot, it's basically, there's a whole debate whether the whole all days of Sukkot it's an aseh d'oraisa to sheklu live in Israel, and we don't hold like that. It's really the first day with the kachtem lachem by Yom HaRishon. Torah says only on the first day of Sukkot you take for yourself, and then we darshan it out at the rest of it. But regarding matzah, how many days does it say to eat matzah? Shivat yamim tochal matzot. So it literally says, like, there's a 7 day. It's a whole week of cleansing.
But we only make
on the first day. Bidiyuk. Now that's the only diyuk, but the mitzvah of eating it is only on is 7 days. Shivat yamim matzot tochel. Now, why is this? So he brings a beer from the Zohar. וכמו שמבואר בזוהר הקדוש, במשל לחולה, שהרופא מורה לו לאכול במשך כמה ימים רק מאכלים מסוימים, ואחר שגופו עברי והתחזק, שוב יכול לאכול מאכלים נוספים. This answers the famous question. Remember the famous question of, how could it be that, why would I go back to eating something that for 7 days resembles all the negative things in the world? What does chametz resemble for us? What are all the Torahs on chametz? What midah does the midah of chametz, what does it resemble? Gaiva, blown up, making yourself bigger than you really are. All the midot that all year long, we speak about how we want to rid ourselves from. And on, like, Seder night, I'm so in the Indian of shiflut, of hachna'ah, of anava. And for 7 days I'm eating, and it's like, wow, I'm so not connected to that blown up entity. This is like, I'm so small and I love it and it's good and it's good. And then Pesach comes out. That's about, 7:34 p.m. And by 7:36 p.m., my phone is filled with text messages saying, Rav Shlomo is our chametz, is our chametz brought back already? And the line, I remember in Los Angeles, the line, there was this bakery called, there was this store called Yummy Pita. This woman, Yafa. The line outside of Yummy Pita, Nagila Pizza, all the pizza places, my gosh, it was like around. What's the Indian? Like, why would you run back to that? So really, be'emet, if the matzah eating was kara'ui, and the stomach is surviving, obviously, as well, even if you do eat the chametz that night, which you probably will, and there's no isser at all to eat chametz, the second Pesach is out, it's a different approach to eating the chametz. Meaning that chametz, that thing that resembles that blown up thing, the koach of the matzah gives me koach to eat again in a holy, in a deeper way, with a more heightened state of awareness and consciousness. Now, with the mashal from the Zohar, what he said over here is that the doctor told the person, listen, you're not doing too good. If you really stay away from a bunch of things for 7 days and you only eat things that give you a lot of strength, you'll build the stamina again to be able to eat those things that right now are damaging you and causing a health hazard. You'll be able to go back to it and eat it in a proper way. That's how he's bringing out the whole idea of going back to something that Kivyochel was like so wrong and so bad. It's like, it's the same thing with a lot of things in life that we feel like we just gotta stop it, we gotta get rid of. And one of the things I think about all the time is social media. People go through these what's it called? Detoxes, or there's not a person in the world that I've met that has, detoxed from social media and regrets it. Not a person. Mamash. Now the question is, if I detox from it, but I need it for parnasa. I had a conversation with someone yesterday. He says, listen, I need to get off this stuff. But I realized that for my parnasa, I actually do need to have some access and interaction with social media, because that's the name of the game today. That's just the way, that's like the rules today, kiviyachol. So if you detox with the heightened state of awareness and consciousness, with a kavana, that when you go back to it, it'll be you got to check yourself. Definitely got to check yourself and make sure it's for real. You're ready to go back. But sometimes when we do these detoxes, it's not in order to say, I'm never going back to it again. It's in order to say that when I go back to it, it's different. I'll give you another example. Some chevra are very, very, I've seen this before with silent meditations and meditation retreats, l'chulei, and we've spoken about it here, that they take on silence. They just stop talking. And, in other religions, that's a very big thing. You ever meet this chevra? They live in, monasteries, and for years they'll go without actually speaking, without talking. Our inyan is not that. We have to, Hashem gave us, actually, what separates us from the animal is ruach memalala, a spirit that talks. So beseder, so you go to the place of not talking. That's fine. But when you come back, and it was for real, that state of not talking, the talking is different. This is what Rav Kluger is saying to us about what the place of Pesach is doing to us, what Matza, Achilas Matza is doing to us, is that yes, during those 7 days there's something going on in order so that when I am out of Mitzrayim and I'm out of Pesach, Kivichol, that something lasts. And now I'm strong again. I get strong again. It's literally a cleansing period. It's a healing period. Mamash, Achilat Matzah, Tkufat Havra'ah. It's a healing period so that when I go back, I have koach. Just like, I don't know if they have this I know they have it in Hadassah. Do they have like that, in Shaarei Tzedek too, they have that whole like Bet Malon Lioldot? In Hadassah they have it. They don't think they have it in Shaarei Tzedek. So it's like you experience something so exalted, which is like, boom, the leaving of Mitzrayim compared to it, right? That's the night of Pesach, of leaving Mitzrayim. And you're leaving, you're going through a whole process, and you need to be in this place of, I'm not really ready to come back to this world. I need this. Some people it's a real thing. But then you have a tkufa of havra'ah, not so that you can go back and experience life again, because you can't. You experience something so glorious. And the transition back into the world is the rest of the 6 days after the first day of Pesach. And then coming back, Bezrat Hashem, with koach, to be able to eat again in a proper way. Ubenusach acher, in third paragraph, nimtza basfarim הקדושים, שאחר שלילה זה הוא זמן ליdas nishmas Israel. In the Svarim they call Pesach night the zman of leidas nishmas Israel. Nishmas Israel is being born. The soul of Am Yisrael is being born on Pesach night. ממילא יש להיזהר ביותר לאכול רק מאכלים מבוררים וזכים. So he's saying, he's not just saying this about matzah. I don't know what your menus are like, but he's saying bichlal, Pesach night, if the whole thing is about that, my eating is elevated in a very high way, also the rest of the night, to eat very specific things that are really mevurarim v'zakim. That means like, sifted and refined food, but higher level. The rest of the night as well. Not exactly what happens in the Pesach programs in the hotels. I didn't have Pesach at home. I think I had it one time in my whole life till I was an adult. You too?
No.
You always had it. I don't know. Because my father, we were always on these programs. My father was always leading this darim and chazan, and don't get me wrong, it was very, very exciting moments of our childhood. But all these different hotels and this and that. But I'm saying, like, when I think back at I have a memory right now. My father, he's so cute. he played a lot of simchas when we were growing up. He was always playing simchas and playing on these, these programs always. And I have this one, my siblings and I joke about this. You see that people were could barely move because of how much they're eating at these things, and he'd start singing gastronomia. Gastronomia. He would on these treats. Do you ever see how much food, you could live in the tea room? You know what the tea room is? Do you guys know what the tea room is on these retreats? The tea room is like a room. I don't know if they have this in Eretz Yisrael. In America, I don't know. They have it? Not on that level, right? You've seen those. It's. How do you describe a tea room? It has nothing to do with tea. Nothing. I don't even know if there is tea in the tea room. There's everything in the world all day. All day.
Constant smorgasbord?
Constant, all day. It's mamish not a Rav Kluger experience. It's not a Rabbi Nachman experience of Pesach. You see what I'm trying to say? What's that?
I just wanted to add that Sarah Yehudit Schneider, in her Haggadah, she talks about how the very first Aveira, right, was in eating.
Right.
And that Leil HaSeder is like a tikkun for that original...
That's really what I wanted to say, is that, listen, there's so many different pieces in this Sefer. I wanted to just go to one that we could say, let's put the focus on this year and say, because everyone I speak to wants to feel better in that area. Everyone. Some want to feel better. They want to eat more healthy. They need to get stronger. Some want to eat less. However we look at it, it's like Shoshana said, we have a tikkun with eating from the beginning of time. And they'll say there, if it's leidas nishmas Yisrael, that it's being born again, so it's a chance to re-engage in this holy tikkun, like it's the first time. And we have to, listen, matzah is called mechla d'mei menusa. You have to believe this. You actually have to mamish have emunah that when you're eating matzah, you have to have first the das that you're doing a mitzvah sasem min Torah, but you have to have the emunah that this is mamish soap. This is cleaning your inside. This is cleansing us. Again, I want to start this paragraph again. What's that?
It's detox.
But you have to believe in it. You have to believe in it. That's the point. You can't just sit there and say, no, it's not working. That's not it either. Now, some people they go through spiritual work and they do an action, and then they go into the world of decision, the speculation. It's working. Or they'll say, this is really working. A minute later, it doesn't work like that. There's something. It's a deeper process that's inside. Hanukkah candle, you could see if when you lit the Hanukkah candle that it's lit. With matzah, eating matzah, you know that you ate something, but you don't know because it's inside it, what it's doing, what it's poel. ובנוסח אחר נמצא בספרים הקדושים, שאחר שלילה זה הוא זמן לידת נשמת ישראל. ממילא יש להיזהר ביותר לאכול רק מאכלים מבורים וזכים, since we're being born that night, כאותו תינוק שאינו יכול לאכול כל מאכל. You give a baby pizza? You're going to give a baby, marble cake? What? A baby can't eat everything. אלא רק מאכלים מבוארים וזכים, אשר תאכל קיבתו לעכל. But you can only give the baby certain foods that can be digested. Right, baby? And that's the same thing that's going on with us. כך בהתחלת העבודה מדי שנה בשנה, אנו נזהרים ממשהו חמץ. So this is how it's like it every single year. In the beginning of the year, which for us we know is now, that we're very cautious and careful from anything chametz. It says, the Gemara says, chametz asur b'mashu. That means there's no such thing as if you found a little bit of chametz, it's okay because the shear of chametz is, a certain amount. Chametz is asur b'mashu, a crumb is chametz, right? So we're very careful from any crumb in the beginning. שכן החמץ מבטא את הפירוד והרע. חמץ expresses this separation and the bad. ועל כן אנו אוכלים רק מצה, שמבטאת אחדות וביטול. Matzah symbolizes the opposite of pirud. Matzah symbolizes achdus and bitul, togetherness, which also, in order to really be together, I have to mevatel my I, the extra I that's not necessary, in order to be together. There's a lot of mamarim on this. ומשם מקבלים אנו כוח לאכול אחר יום טוב פסח גם מאכלים אחרים, ואדרבה, להאיר בכל הבריאה את אור השם יתברך, אור האמונה. It's not just that we have the capacity to then eat other things after Pesach in a more refined way, but we're able to illuminate in all of creation the light of Hashem, the light of Emunah. ועל כן, נצטווינו שלא לאכול חמץ 7 ימים, שכן בכך אנו מאירים בכל קומת הנפש, בשבע סמידות, את אור האמונה. Why is it dafka 7 days? So without getting too much into it, we turn too much into the spheres, but the koma of the nefesh, that which builds our soul, this is basic Tanya, what he's telling us over here. The Sheva Midot. What's a good way that you say this regarding the 7 attributes of
personality traits?
That's exactly what it is. Komat nefesh. The personality traits, there are 7, right? Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. These are 7 traits that are being planted again and being restored into us for 7 days. This is the or of the Emunah. ומחזקים ובונים את האמונה והיהדות למשך כל השנה כולה הבאה לקראתנו. They build our Emunah and our Yiddishkeit. They mamish build our Yiddishkeit for the rest of the year. That's Bezrat Hashem will have. שכלולה משבע ימים שורשיים. There's also 7 days of creation. בכל יום ביום טוב פסח מאיר למשך כל השנה כולה יום לשנה יום לשנה. So basically what this year, how does it work out? What's the first day of Pesach? Monday night, Tuesday, right? That's actually a good simon. Yeah. Aman Kitov, yeah. So that means, so basically, it's me'al azman anyway. So like you're going into a world that's beyond time and nature. But since it's 7, the concept of 7 over here is saying that every single day I'm going, it's like on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the way I eat is planting the seeds for the rest of the Tuesdays or the Sundays, doesn't matter how you count it, for the whole year that should be done in a proper way through the midah, through the personality trait of chesed. That's also why we start dealing with all the midos during Pesach with Sfirat HaOmer, where we're going into all the different characteristic traits, then counting for 7 weeks, 7 days for each week. So this repetition over here is very important for us to realize that it's setting the stage for the rest of the year. Pesach is not just about Pesach. Pesach is about the rest of the year. Pesach is not just about Shavuot. It's about the whole year, even though it's a preparation to begin marching towards Shavuot. But Seder night, it all starts with that first bite of the matzah. It's also one of the reasons why I feel very strongly about this, even though it's not brought down la halacha like this is the reason why, but what do you eat after Zman Bitul Chametz till Seder? What do you, Nothing. There's not a lot you can eat because you can't have Chametz and you can't have any matzah. You can't have any matzah things either. So you can get really creative. That's not the point. The point is actually to realize I can eat very little. Like there's no Indian to faint by the time you get to the Seder. Remember one year, it was such a stupid, immature spiritual decision. I said, it'll probably be a deeper achana. I'm a bechor, right? So I have to hear a siyum in the morning. I said, you know what? It's probably better this year if I dive in on my own and I don't go to hear a siyum to mamish fast erev Pesach. 3 p.m. I'm falling. I wasn't married yet. I was falling on my face. I was feeling horrible and nervous and anxious because I had to lead a Seder that night. It's in Los Angeles. For like one of these communal hippie darim. I mean, I loved them, but not when you're fasting. So I remember, I mamish started learning a masechta to see if I could, what I could do, how much I could cram. It didn't go anywhere. It ended up being not one of the most memorable ones, but that's why basically, again, even the tikkun of eating really starts even before Seder night because of this zman. You got there, let's see, probably you have to stop eating like 10, usually like 10, 20 chametz, mashka kazeh, and say you only face it. There's no such thing as early yontiv when it comes to Pesach because you have to daven b'zman, you know. So when are you sitting? And then there's halal, the first night of yontiv. What time are you actually eating? What time are you going to the seder table? 9. Around 9, 8:39. That's the seder table. When are you starting to eat?
That's why that karpas is so yummy.
You know that my father was in a movie. My father was in a few movies as like these, like chazan roles or action. One of the movies my father was in, I don't recommend watching it because I actually, you know what? I never actually watched the full thing because I realized this is wacky, but it's a movie called When Do We Eat? Any of you heard of this movie?
I've watched it.
Yeah? It's crazy. It's about the most dysfunctional family in the world getting ready for Seder. The name of the movie is When Do We Eat? And one of the kids is so like just such a tripper, and he can't connect to, and he has no patience or anything. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make this exciting, and he doses his father at the beginning of the Seder in the first hagafa, in the first cup. Meaning he puts acid in the right, and then why am I telling you this? Because then then what ends up happening is that and because everyone's suffering so much, everything, and the father's so uptight. I think this is what happens. The father's so uptight and he's so atzbani, and then he drinks, and then those looks begin, and then suddenly he has this epiphany, and my father with Yehuda Solomon and another person appear in his mind as 3 chazans that look like bakers and start singing in his mind all these wacky songs. And Kitzur, when do we eat? That's the name of because that's what the kids are, you know. Yeah, they're excited for Manishtana. That excitement lasts for very little, you know. Once Manishtana is over, they think it's done. You know, a kid thinks, what's Seder? It's just Manishtana, I'm Dayenu. This is Gamalnu. You know, there's a whole, Magid keeps on going for a while after Manishtana. There's a lot going on over there. Anyway, this is just all important stuff to like, how do you give over to a child? The concept of like, that this is the night of Tikkun Achila. I have no eitzah. I have no eitzahs for this.
It's so funny that you say that because I feel like Dafka Efek. I feel like since I've become a parent, maybe it's because I'm married to Yoni Burke, but the shift of let's feed them at 5:30 so they don't go cranky, / Karpas is any adama and any liquid, and Yoni learns about it, and we do strawberries dipped in chocolate. When you get it, we have soup at 11 o'clock at night, but they're good.
Okay, no. I'm not talking about how to. I'm not saying techniques of starving your children to 11. I'm talking.
Obviously, but this shift. That's how I grew up. The
Right.
right. I'm IMDb-ing this now. But
it's good. It's good.
A beautiful shift to have this concept.
I think that children also don't need that tikkun. I think it's a tikkun that kind of
as we get older, yeah.
Over the years, and you need to
it's true.
bring that in. Like children, they eat when they're hungry, they stop when they're full.
And if not, you'll see the crankiness, and you have to shift it for them.
It's true.
We don't need to give that
it's
over.
True.
We need to be an example for them so that they can understand what it means when the taiva starts kicking in.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's very meduyak. They're closer to the time that they were born than we are. Right? They're closer to Leida Tam than adults are. Maybe that's very deep. That's very deep. Okay, so we're just gonna one more short paragraph here. So I think there's והנה איתה בספרים הקדושים שהמצה שאוכלים בני ישראל היא בבחינת מן. The Sfarim say that matzah is actually man, because the truth is, it doesn't taste like you could. It's nice to have all these thoughts and different theories, and matzah does not taste like anything. It's not supposed to taste like anything. What else didn't really taste like anything? The man. But how did it end up tasting like what it ended up tasting like? How did that happen with their exactly? Like we always say, the manna, like when, as a kid, the way I learned it was like the manna came down, and what did it taste like? If you wanted it to be burgers, it was burgers. If you wanted it to be pizza, it was pizza. Is that how anyone else said?
Yeah.
Huh? You still think like that? I'm sorry. No. That's true. That's absolutely true. That is exactly what it felt. I mean, Ariella, it was tofu. It was like cucumbers or whatever it was, whatever you want. But that's really how it was. Like there was manna, it came down, and then there was the kavanah of like what this was going inside of me, basically determined what it ended up being for me. That's what it was. What's matzah? It's the same exact thing. והנה איתה בספרים הקדושים שהמצה שאוכלים בני ישראל בבחינת מן, לחם מן השמיים, שאליו זכו על ידי משה רבנו. In the merit of who did the manna come down? Moshe Rabbeinu. כדברי חז"ל, like חז"ל tell us in the Gemara Tainis. ולא רק שבזכותו של משה רבנו זוכים להשפעת המן, אלא שהמן מבטא את מציאותו ועבודתו של משה רבנו. It's not just that in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu we merited to have manna, but the manna expressed the mitzias and the way Moshe Rabbeinu was an Eved Hashem. It's very important. It says in Likutei Moharan, Ksiv ba vayomer Moshe elehem hu halechem. The pshat of the pasuk is Moshe Rabbeinu told them, this is the bread. But in Hebrew, the word hu, what does hu mean in Hebrew? If you're talking about something, so it means this is. But you could also say, read it differently. Vayomer Moshe alehem. Moshe Rabbeinu told them, he spoke to them, hu halechem. Rabbi Nachman says, he is the lechem. He is actually the lechem. He is the masbiyah, right? It's gewalt. Hu daika kai al Moshe be'atzmo, shebezchuto achlu haman. V'yesh leva'er את השייכות של משה רבנו עם השפעה סמן. Now let's just get a little bit deeper with Moshe Rabbeinu and this shefa of the manna. שכן משה רבנו נתן לבני ישראל את התורה, שהיא המזון הרוחני של נשמת ישראל. You know how Moshe Rabbeinu wanted us to learn Torah? On the level of eating it. Because when we said, like we said in the beginning, when we eat something, teva hamazon nitapech lanizon, that the nature of what you consume becomes you. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want us to eat, to learn Torah, like we do any other mitzvah, where it's outside of me. I can learn Kol Torah Kula, and it could stay outside of me. Or I could learn one pasuk, and that's the pasuk that is like the matzah, where it's a mitzvah that goes inside of me, and I'm so much more closer to it than all the Torah that I know, but I know it on the outside. How did Moshe Rabbeinu want us to learn the Torah that he gave us? Like matzah, like the manna, inside. It's our mazon ruchani. It's our spiritual nourishment. ועל כן השפיע עליהם משה רבנו גם את המן, שכן התורה והמן הם עניין אחד, שניהם מזון רוחני ופנימי לנפש האדם. כדברי חז"ל, לא ניתנה תורה אלא לאוכלי המן. Like Chazal tell us, the Torah was only given to those that ate the manna, that those that ate something that went inside them, and they had to have the consciousness and awareness of what they're eating for it to mean anything to them. It's to that generation the Torah was given to. And that reenacts itself every single year. As the Sfarim tell us, that the Torah itself is our soul nourishment. I love when this Breslover starts quoting the Alter Rebbe. Lo nitna Torah, Levushe haneshamos began Eden hem hamitzvahs. והתורה היא המזון לנשמות שעסקו בעולם הזה בתורה. Have any of you ever seen this before? In Perek Hey and Tanya? No? You have to teach them again. לבושי הנשמות בגן עדן הם המצוות. What does that mean? What's the levush of the neshama? What does that mean? The levush of the neshama, the levush, the garments, the clothing of a neshama in Gan Eden are the mitzvahs that we do in this world. The Torah hi hamazon, and the Torah is the food, the Torah that we learn in this is the food